I'm Mythic Moon, and Generation 5 of My Little Pony is fast approaching. So I felt like going over some details that I know I saw people having concerns about whenever they kinda showed up. First, I wanted to go over the concerns of the likelihood of us keeping the voice cast from the movie. Besides the fact that it's really off to have movie VAs and then switch to series VAs for characters first appearing in the movie, the VAs that we have now have done television work. So it doesn't seem like too much of a stretch to me that we'll be keeping them long after. Izzy's VA, Kimiko Glynn, did work for DuckTales and Centaur World, so she's no stranger to television work. Especially Alphabettal. That dude's track record is huge! He's Samurai Jack! They were not skimping out whenever they picked VAs for these characters. Hopefully this means Hasbro is taking it just as seriously as we would want them to. And hopefully this means that they seriously want to keep these VAs, especially for the series. Another point of concern I've seen is why were the Earth Ponies running from Izzy? Well, a little later in that same trailer, we see that Earth Ponies have no idea that magic has left the unicorns. Heck, Sunny even asks for a magical display while kicking beans off of the freaking table. And this is where Izzy shows her that while she can do a trick with her horn, she can't actually use it for levitation or spells. But if the Earth Ponies didn't know that magic was gone, then what would this say for their survival if their own magic is gone? One of the details I remember Celestia saying is that Twilight had the strength of an Earth Pony. If strength is the Earth Pony's magic, and that's gone, without weapons, how are they supposed to protect themselves? Especially against the possibility of unicorn magic. The natural drive to survive would dictate that they would run away from the possible threat of unicorn and Pegasi immediately if they didn't realize that those two magics were gone. Plus, from the looks of it, Earth Ponies probably have themselves pretty paranoid as it is. We see movie posters, some of them mimicking some horror films that we have in our own lifetime, like Jaws, a movie that caused people's reactions to sharks to be horrified, and to leave the directors and producers feeling pretty guilty. So there's no telling how distrustful and paranoid this generation of Earth Ponies are by now. There's a good chance that they've just been getting worse and worse as the generations have gone, because we have no idea how many generations in the future this is so far. But even from there, we get Izzy's own concern about searching for the Pegasi. If the Earth Ponies didn't know that unicorns lost their magic, then there's a good chance that unicorn also think Pegasi still have their magic. But if the other two have already lost theirs, then the Pegasi would have lost their magic a long time ago. Theirs, of course, being flight. Which then makes sense to me as to why they're suddenly now claiming a city on the ground. Sure, it's still up in the mountains, but it's not in the clouds like they're used to. But if Pegasi wanted to stay away from other pony races easily, they would have just stuck to the clouds, since neither of the other races would be able to get up there easily without detection. But at the same time, if they've lost flight, the clouds would have been extremely dangerous for them to have stayed in. We don't really know if the cloud buildings would have stayed up, or if they would have been able to walk on clouds anymore. And what would happen if ponies suddenly fell from the clouds? No one would have been able to save them. So it would have been much safer, once they noticed it becoming harder to fly, to leave their cloud homes for a place on the ground. Especially for the young ones. We know how Fluttershy hit the ground, and of course she ended up fine, but what about many others who didn't get that chance? No, the clouds would have been way too dangerous for the Pegasi by this point. Now we do have Zip's entrance, but we don't see how she shot up. They have to be high up since she spooked them by going through the clouds, but that could mean that she used some form of boost from wind. Like in Griffinstone, how the ravine winds were so strong that flight through them was impossible. Catching the wind and gliding should be something that Pegasi can still do. And we have seen scenes or gifs of Pip in flight, But even as humans, we have ways of making ourselves seemingly float and move in the air. So if the Pegasi are so advanced that they have social media, I'd bet my flank that they have a way to make themselves appear in flight. Like with wires? Plus, I'm guessing any form of trick to make them appear in flight would be a good way of making sure the other races didn't think that they lost their magic. But moving on from Zephyr Heights, at some point we know that they all go to visit the unicorns. But before doing so, they all have to disguise as unicorns as well, with a horn slapped on every head and clothing covering the wings. I guess there really isn't any other way to tell if a unicorn is or isn't besides the horn. Which, speaking of the horn, there's another reason for the Earth Pony and Pegasi to fear them. They may not have magic anymore, but that's still a spear on the head, even if it's not really the safest usage for a horn. It's still a possibility if pushed. But back to the unicorns. We see that their forest is full of crystals, which, I guess I know where I'm moving. But, they all kinda just seem depressed. I guess magic really was the shining detail for unicorns, but it does look like they have pony dancing competitions. I guess if that keeps their spirits up. But that could also explain why Izzy is said to be a strange one out of the bunch. She's very, very happy, while all the others seem to be very, very sad. But without going into too much leak or spoiled territory, we don't have much on the story from here. We know that Generation 5 will be within a distant future for Generation 4, and that Sunny will be raised on stories involving Twilight and her friends, and how Equestria used to be, unified, together with more than just the three races. That ancient visions of Equestria will appear to be her wish and drive to fix the town and the home that she has now. And honestly, I can't wait to see how this story unfolds. Magic has to come back to Equestria somehow, and she does seem like just the character. And I guess it does give us a hint that magic isn't completely gone, since we do see that the ponies have one-sided cutie marks. Though, have we ever seen one-sided cutie marks besides on merchandise before? We've seen cutie marks removed and replaced with equal signs, we've seen them swapped, but I don't really remember where one mark is just gone. I guess it's so that the whole part of talents being attached to them isn't removed. I guess it just means that their magical connection is mostly gone. But I'm sure the movie will tell us more about that. But other than that, I have seen concerns involving why the Wendigos haven't showed up either, or how the sun and moon is still rising and falling. I believe the removal of the Wendigos has something to do with the end of Generation 4. When the magic was united during the end fight, the Wendigos were seen disappearing into shiny pieces. I think we could take that as the end of their looming shadow over Equestria, especially since them disappearing beforehand was a lot more different compared to them just disintegrating. Now, as for the sun and moon, I don't really have an answer for that besides possibly Twilight finding a way to fix that with some form of magic. Especially since, if the book is still canon, we know that unicorn magic was basically the only way to control them originally, by unicorns sacrificing themselves just to get them to move every day. And there's a good chance that either Twilight or whatever princess was after her wouldn't want the unicorns to have to start sacrificing themselves again, especially if it could mean the end of their magic. But anyways, that really shouldn't have been the end of this, because man, that got a little dark. But that's all I wanted to cover until the movie comes out, and I can't wait to see how everyone reacts to it. It looks like it's going to be really good, and the animation, even though it's 3D, is absolutely outstanding. But anyway, this has been Mythic Moon, and thank you for listening to my blathering. See y'all next time!